All right, welcome. We're here for the Whitman Finance Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. It's 7 p.m. We're broadcasting remotely with the help of the Whitman Hanson Community Access. And just run through the agenda. We have previous minutes from November 10th, I believe, that have been distributed previously. Reserve fund sits at $49,647. Our public forum is temporarily suspended due to the COVID-19 limitations. I ask if you want to communicate with the Finance Committee that you send me an email, Rick Anderson @whitman/ma.gov, or you can call my home phone, 781-447-4366. Under new business today, we have budget manager meetings with the DPW and with the water sewer. We'll take them in the order that they come, or either way. DPW's at 7:15, water sewer 7:45, but again, that's open pretty much for interpretation. Old business, we have subcommittee reports if they're available. Whitman Hanson Regional School District Assessment, non-mandated busing. Other business, the town administrator, the interim town administrator will be tied up with the selectmen for their meeting tonight. And we do have our accountant, Ken Lytle, with us. Upcoming meetings scheduled. We have December 8th, December 15th, and January the 5th. Those are the three more meetings that we need to meet with all of the budget managers for the initial pass through. So welcome, Bruce. I see you're here. Would you like to get started right into your budget since you are scheduled for 7:15? If you're not ready, that's fine. We'll let Dennis get going. So if you are on, you are muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me okay?
You can, yep. So
No
welcome.
picture, huh?
You're being here. We do have your budget that was submitted to Ken, and we redistributed it earlier this week. So if you want to just get started, your budget in Article 2 starts on line 181, correct?
Let's see, that is correct.
Right.
So this is pretty basic as requested. We didn't do any increases. We just level funded from this year's salary lines. So as you can see, my salary line is level funded from this current fiscal year. The union labor salaries, there's a slight increase there due to one of my employees requesting his 20-year longevity increase. So that I think that's the $4,000 you see there, higher than last year's union salary line. And again, that line includes all employees, all estimated overtime. I estimate overtime 130 hours a year per man. And again, that's not including any contracts that would be negotiated for next fiscal year. That's just level funded with the contractually due 20 years longevity increase for the one employee. Union labor clerical salary. That is there again, it's level funded. Let me grab something here. Recording secretary, level funded. That's for 50. I budget for 15 meetings a year. We have one of the secretaries do our minutes. She comes in for a 3-hour overtime rate. And looks like we'll probably be going over those, that amount of meetings. We've had some extra meetings already this year and probably more due to COVID. We've had to meet several times in different types of situations. Longevity pay, gone down just a little bit. We've had some turnover. My total divisional expense, again, level funded. I've been holding that line for a while. I think we went up a few years ago to help me compensate for actually tree work around town, and it's costly, and it's a safety thing. And I'm running into that same issue again this year, where there's town trees and we don't have the correct equipment to be able to deal with these types of large trees, so I have to hire out, and it's just a costly thing, but you can't avoid it. If a tree has to come down, it has to come down. And we're actually in that situation with 2 trees right now. Stormwater management. There is no request for that line this year. The money budgeted last year, that all those things that are going to be doing with environmental partners regarding stormwater, we're going to be working on those all this fiscal year and probably into next fiscal year. So at this time, I don't need the budget for any more stormwater money. It's not going to go away. There'll be more. I'll have to ask that for in subsequent years. But I think for now, that line, I'm not going to need to request any money for that line. Solid waste disposal, again, contractual. I believe we're in our 3rd of 5 years. So that covers, that dollar amount had to go up. Couldn't level fund it. We have contractual increases with solid waste disposal and solid waste curbside collection. And the recycling part is the unpredictable part of it. I put it at $100 a ton. We're hoping that goes down. But it's staying steady a little bit. But it's market based. So that solid waste line reflects all those things. And again, the solid waste line is fee based. So the town, bills out that amount, but we have to budget for it. Snow and ice control, we hold that line every year. We overspend that line every year. Last year, we still overspent it, I believe, and even though we had a mild winter. But you look back on last year, we said, oh, we got no snow, but we got about what's considered average for this part of the country, somewhere around 40 inches. We got it in small amounts, dribs and drabs. I think we had one or 2 plowable storms, but then the 3 and 4s add up. Police coverage, again, level funded, hold the line. That's my detail. That is dependent on police raises and stuff. Every time I hire a detail officer, it's at his time and a half rate. So when their rates go up every year, if my detail rate doesn't go up, my detail coverage doesn't go up, then that's that much less times I can work on the road. And with a highway division, that's what we do. We work on the road. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell right there. If you have any questions regarding any of the lines?
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Does anybody have any specific questions related to any of that presentation? Kathleen?
Just one quick question, Bruce. You said that one of your salaries was going up by 5,000 for longevity, and then you have a longevity line item. This is just a sort of accounting line item question. Why is it not in the longevity pay line item 189?
Sure. So longevity pay, every employee gets a longevity bonus, if you will, each year. And depending on how many years they've worked, they'll get X amount of dollars if they've been here 8 years, X amount of dollars if they've been here 10 years. Mm-hmm. After 20 years, the actual salary of an employee goes up 7% for 2 years.
Okay.
And then their salary rolls back to whatever that line should be, the baseline for his position at that time, going into the 3rd year.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and one quick thing, Bruce, yeah, well, on the budget mailing that was sent out, we did request a level funded for salaries, and we appreciate the fact that you actually are one of very few departments that actually complied with that directive, so that's appreciated. This is something we're gonna be looking at, salaries. We are still, just so you know, in a budget crisis here in the town of Whitman. We have not healed on our own. We also, if you recall, gave the town of Hanson $500,000 last year, and that's certainly not helping our bottom line either. So we're looking to each department. I don't think there's a way that the DPW could pare down any more to a negative 5.3% increase. I think that, can you just give me a little more information about the stormwater management? I happen to notice that driving through East Bridgewater, they're doing the entire Route 18. I don't know if you know that. Every storm drain has been cut out and replaced. Is that related to the NPDES that you've listed here? Do you think that's what?
Well, it's related in a way. I mean, when they go in and they're gonna do a major construction project on any state road, they're gonna adhere to stormwater rules and regs, and the goal now is to make catch basins watertight essentially, and but so in the case of that project, they're just, they repaired storm drains when they did our project too. They went in and rebuilt the storm drains and moved them. A lot of times when they're repaving, like they are in East Bridgewater, they'll have to move a storm drain depending on how they regrade a road. When they do that, they'll rebuild the catch basins. Ours is based on a whole bunch of mandates regarding outfalls. We have multiple outfalls around town. Every catch basin in town runs into a river, a brook, or a stream somewhere in the woods. And when they at those outfalls, part of this program is they have to be tested, and they have to be sampled and tested. And those tests, they go out to a lab, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very complicated, and there's a lot to it. There's construction runoff they get into. They want to know how much we pull out of catch basins when we clean them, how much sand we pull out of the road, tonnage every year. It's all has to do with keeping sediment and contaminants out of the stormwater that eventually makes its way to the ocean.
Okay, so in line 191, there was no amount voted in 2020, but there was in 2021. Is that typical? I mean, in years past, is it cyclical?
No, I actually, I don't have, my sheet doesn't show the 2020 line, but I believe we voted an amount in 2020. It was quite a bit smaller than this one. And what we do is we have a contract with environmental partner, and there's a scope of work they do over the course of a year. The scope of work involved with this may take up, I'm predicting, close to 2 years. And everything they do gets submitted to the state. Like I said, I don't have the 2020. I'm at home.
Well, on our worksheet, our total budget worksheet, the line for 2020 on 191 is blank. Ken, can you confirm that there was no money allocated to that line?
It actually was outside of the DPW's budget that year. It's somewhere further in Article 2. I think it was included in Article 2 somewhere, if I'm correct now.
So there was no 191 previously, or it wasn't included in the DPW's budget?
It was part of Article 2. I think it was as recommended by one of the gentlemen from the Collins report. He recommended that amount go into Article 2, not as a part of the DPW budget. And I think if you went down the lines, you would find it somewhere, but it wasn't, it wouldn't have been 191.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at that, because like I said, that does skew your budget as far as, an increase over the year because of the fact that the previous year is listed with no expenditure on that line, so.
Yes, that expense, which is essentially unavoidable, to be compliant and be, you know, in the solid waste line, which really has not a lot to do with my daily operations and my expenses, et cetera. It's just the service provided by a town by a contractor.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? John Galvin?
Yeah, Bruce, you mentioned you estimated 130 hours of overtime per man for your crew. Have you been doing that for a couple of years now? And do you actually have an actual when the year is done on how many overtime hours you actually end up with? And just as a comparison, the only reason why I ask is DPW salaries is one of the lines that has returned a lot of money back to the general fund in the last couple of years. On average, it's about, it's over $35,000. And I'm just curious, obviously it's that overtime that you're playing with. And do you have like an average of what it is? How did you come up with that 130, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, based on previous superintendent's averages, and then I just carried that on, and it comes close every year. And I understand when you look at the bottom line of how much we're giving back and under union salaries, but unfortunately, we've had quite a few years, and this year is no different so far, where we've actually had employees out for, different injuries, non-work related, where they're off. They actually come off the salary. So we might go, like I've gone 6 months this year without one of my employees drawing off the town. And we still haven't, taken an action or been able to take an action on that employee. So he's still listed as an employee, but he wasn't drawing off my salary line. And that's happened for several years in a row with turnover, with, if we have an employee leave, sometimes it takes us well over 2 or 3 months to get somebody in.
Right.
After paying off their vacation and then advertising and then having to come in for interviews and then drug testing, pre-employment, it can take months before we can get the new person in. And that's where a lot of that extra you see. If I have a full complement of employees for a full year with an average amount of incidents, like, we had guys go out this week with these windstorms and stuff like that. It's unpredictable.
Right. No, I understand that, the last thing we want to do is be short that and not be able to cover a storm or something like that. But I was just curious where that estimate came from.
And that's where it's been, averaged out over the years. And we do keep track of all the overtime for each year, right up to now. And matter of fact, I have a sheet in the other room that I think my guys are at right around 80 hours each. And this is non-snow and ice. All the snow and ice overtime comes out of the snow and ice line.
All right.
So otherwise we'll blow that out of the water, 130 hours.
Do you have anything overtime that's COVID related or anything like that? Or does that not affect you at all?
No, we don't have, I would say we haven't had any COVID related overtime.
Okay.
On my side. Nothing we've done. Everything for us, non-snow and ice is either, motor vehicle accidents, windstorms, flooding. We do have the leaf pile open, 20 weeks a year, where we have that staffed by 2 men on Saturdays for 20 weeks. So that's an automatic that comes out. And then all the things that are unpredictable. Street sign knocked down, all kinds of things like that.
Okay, John, that answers your question?
Yes, sir.
John Noon.
Hi, Bruce. Where are you as far as the union contract at this point? Are you negotiating for salaries that will go into effect for 2022? Or is that going to be covered by an existing contract?
So they are under contract just for this fiscal year. So they'll be negotiating sometime, I'm sure they hope sometime this winter, very soon. As superintendents, we do not get involved in the contract negotiations. It's the town manager and usually one member of our board of commissioners. They'll ask us for non-money issues, if we have any wording for the contract we'd like to change or have added. But as superintendents, we are not directly involved in contract negotiations.
Okay,
So-
thank you very
So one
much.
more year.
Just this fiscal year, yep. July 1st, their current contract is up. I mean, June 30th.
That answer your question, John?
Yes, so we'll have
Okay.
a new contract for 2022.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Bruce? All right, not seeing any. Bruce, thank you very much. Thank you for the work you do. And if we have follow-ups or you need to, send an email to follow up with anything related to your budget as we head towards town meeting, feel free to give us a shout.
Okay, and so I guess we won't be discussing any of the many articles that I set up along with that?
You will be discussing them with the Buildings, Facilities, and Capital Expenditure Committee. Dave will be certainly talking to you about those before they come back around to the Finance Committee for discussion.
Okay, and if any of the committee members on your committee have any questions, feel free to send me an email and I'll shoot you whatever information I can.
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay,
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
good night.
Good night. All right, Dennis, we'll appreciate you being here. Also, thank you for submitting your budget in a timely manner and with the guidelines that were established when it was mailed out. So if anytime you want to just go right through your budget.
The revenue side of my budget, it's always different from year to year. So I as far as that part goes, I reuse the same figures from last year, but I would expect them to change as more developments are proposed. A lot of the revenue for me is from new housing developments, the system development fees, the fees to join the sewer system, and then the individual fees for the individual houses. When there are projects that are going on now, and whether they continue and they will pay up into the current fiscal year, but any of the undone parts or the unfinished parts that carry on into the next fiscal year, the fees from them will apply to the next fiscal year. So until I get a little closer to June, it's kind of and I see some more, whatever the developers are going to planning, it's a little hard to predict that. So like I said, I just reused the figures from last year. The only big difference would be the cross connection fees. If you recall, last year we did got an extra $8,500 for to do a survey within town, which revealed quite a few more tests that are going to end up being done throughout town. We've also, the Board of Commissioners has raised the cross connection fee to $55 per test. So that the increase on cross connection fees on the revenue side goes from 3,500 to 18,700, and that has a matching expense on line 431 of $11,900. So that's what it costs us to get the cross connections done, and then the revenue side is what we make.
Okay. And
Okay.
so the budget for your department starts on line 400. Did you want to start on and just run through, or is there anything
Well,
that
I
you
guess-
want to talk?
Yeah, that's the revenue side,
Yeah.
it's starting and like I was trying, saying, it's really kind of hard to, I mean, water and sewer billings will be essentially
Right,
very
I
close,
understand. Yeah,
very-
yeah.
very close. I mean, there'll be some accounts added, but there won't be a huge difference. But as far as system development charges, connection fees, inspection fees, they should stay, close to that. I'm seeing connection fees and inspection fees, service fees, those will stay very close to what last year, but development charges will not, I don't know, I mean, to connect to Whitman Water, it costs the developer $50,000. And unless somebody installs an 8-inch water main for a new housing development, there's no fee. That's the only way we make that fee is when they got a new housing development.
Okay.
And I haven't really seen anything as far as new plans that somebody's going to, develop that size of a housing development in Whitman. There's just not a lot left.
Okay, so in the expenditure side then starts at 410, right?
Right. So if I stayed at the zero like the email requested, except for the CDL for superintendent line. Per my agreement with the Board of Commissioners, that's 2.5% of my salary, and my CDL is superior to the last superintendent, so that represents that $24. Not a big deal, but I just
Right.
figured I'd point that out.
Sure.
When I get union labors or 413, if you were to take the current salary and the amount of overtime that I actually spent last year, you'll get to that 494. I asked them online on 425, an increase there because that line was spent very close to zero last year. My divisional expense is what I buy water parts for. I pay water, from water pipe, meter, repairs to water mains, that kind of thing. I just figured that, again, it got close to being spent to zero. So I added a little, $700 to that. Data processes I'm mailing, again, very close to being spent completely. And water leak detection was was like $1 less than $8,000 last year. And it's a requirement by DEP that we do it every 2 years. We ask for it every year just to keep it in the budgets, and then turn it back if we don't use it. But we have in the past had leaks that we couldn't find, and we've had to ask people to come in and help us. And, something that was beside a sewer trench or a culvert, trying to find, and we've noticed that we've had an unexplained loss of water. And, we can use it for that in off years. Cross connection is, and we should discuss. And that's pretty much everything else is just the same.
Okay. Thank you very much for that explanation. Do we have any questions for Dennis regarding any of that within the revenue side or the expenditure side of the budget? John Noon.
Hi, Dennis. I'm a rookie at this, so I'd like you just to kind of give me an explanation of line item 438, indirect costs to the general fund.
Okay, so you have to look at the water sewer department basically as its own private company kind of, and we enjoy a huge amount of support from town hall, through the selectman's office, the treasurer, the collector. So and also from the town side of the DPW, Bruce, I mean, one of my vehicles gets fixed, it's fixed by one of Bruce's mechanics. And for everything, gasoline, stamps, anything that we get from the town of Whitman, that supports the water and sewer department is paid for out of that indirect cost. And I don't come up with that number myself. That's usually, I believe, a number that comes up with Ken and Mary Beth. They get together and they establish that based on history.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, John? This is yeah, relatively new as far as adding to this. You understand the whole revenue stream for the water sewers, in a sense, like Dennis said, it's a separate entity from the town. So this is almost like, you know, sharing resources and making a, you know,
Right, and we get
a
like I said, we
contribution
get
to that effort, I guess.
and like I said, we get a huge amount of support from town hall.
Yep. Okay.
Can I add to that just for John's sake? So John, if you look over on tab 3 on our Article 2, you'll actually see that 540,000 is a revenue that it basically goes back to buying down. So if you look at all of the resources that he said, it's already covered in our Article 2. So this is basically used as an offset to it's technically a revenue source for us to pay for, so Dennis can pay for those resources. So that 540 is over, it's line 15 on that tab 3. And that's something that we've just recently changed via the Madden report, where we're using it as a revenue source. We did it last year, and we'll be doing it going forward. Ken, I think I got that pretty much right. I may have simplified it a little bit, but so it is something new. It used to go back to free cash, honestly, but now it's being used as an offset to our revenue, and it's helpful, actually.
Okay.
Ken, anything you want to add to that? Good explanation, John. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess the short way for me to explain it is that it tries to allocate the estimated costs for employees in the general fund based on the work that they do for the enterprise fund. So it's a formula that I kind of inherited from my predecessor, and I had asked around to see if the percentages for the appropriate employees and other expenses were fair. And the sense I got was that it was. So it was more like an if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing. So I just keep using the same formulas that were there.
Okay, excellent. Dennis, can you give us maybe a 10,000-foot elevation view of the upcoming special election? Special town meeting?
Okay, so we're trying to get lined up to get that done. Of course, if it depends on how what we find out from the state as far as available funds. Environmental Partners is helping us out with that, and I've also asked Mary Beth and Ken what their thoughts were about on this. If we really want to get it bid out so we can start the work at the time when the construction season begins. If things don't line up till then, you know, to where we get it done till then it might, you know, end up being on the regular. That's assuming that we do the regular in May. So we're still, like I said, we're hoping to get it. We want to. I know the Board of Commissioners is aiming for that, but you know, there's still, you know, got to figure out how to pay for it.
Okay, so there's no date established if there was going to be a special town meeting for that?
Not yet. And then the other thing is that the COVID has changed the rules as far as quorums and that and notices.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any, Chuck?
Yeah, hi, Dennis. This isn't so much budget related. It's kind of a follow-up on the water meter program that we invested in a couple of years ago, and we were working on replacing most of the water meters in town, I believe. I was just curious, how far along is that finalized or close to finalization, and have you guys been happy with the results? Maybe getting a better accurate read on water, being used by all the residents.
It's because of COVID, it has really slowed down as far as trying to get into people's houses. And the other thing is that because of COVID, we can't make the demands like we used to. We still try to, enter homes where we can stay separate. If somebody can stay, above will allow us into their basement, but stay upstairs. And if we can enter through a bulkhead where we don't have to go through somebody's house, we're still trying to change as many meters as we can. The other thing is that whenever there's a final passing and there's a period where there's the home may be empty, for 7 to 10 days, that we can then get in there and change a meter. We do that. So we try and squeeze it in anywhere we can. But it's nowhere near the pace that we originally planned. As far as the additional revenue, there have been several accounts that have noticed the difference. It's usually I would say it's 3 to 8% increase just because the new meters read accurately. The problem is you're trying to get the entire town like that.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right, great. Thanks for the update on that.
So just as a follow-up too, there were a couple of big customers that had some outstanding balances. What was the disposition of the Whitman Hanson Regional School District's outstanding balance? Was that mitigated or?
It's still in negotiations. We think we might reach a compromise. It all depends on we have a letter going back to them. We'll see how they accept it. Other than that, wherever, as far as anybody else, wherever we find a bill that's in arrears or something, we're working on that. We're also trying to make headway on, and this coincides with the new meters, is make a headway of trimming down all the estimated accounts.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any questions? All right, Dennis. As I mentioned, if you have to Bruce, if you have follow-up questions, Dave Cordero, the vice chair, is the liaison to the DPW and to the Water Sewer Department. So if you have questions, you can reach out to him. You can reach out to me. We'll get right back to you and get you the answer you need. Or like I said, if we get to the point where we're starting to look at budgets and we notice, something that we need to get back to you, we'll certainly reach out.
Well, I appreciate your time and to let me address the committee tonight. And if anything I can do for you, just don't hesitate to call.
Thanks, Dennis. Thank you, Dennis.
All right, Dennis. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, so yeah, Dennis did send quite a few bullet points too. So if you take a look at within his budget and the email that was attached to the October 15th email, he does have, there's a lot of explanations for those lines if anybody wants to follow up with that. So that would wrap up for the budget manager aspect of the meeting. I would ask that if we can refer back to the meeting minutes that we tabled from last week. So again, Dennis and Bruce, thank you very much for your time. You are free to go anytime you want. You can log right out.
Thank you.
Thanks. So does everybody have a copy of the November 10th meeting minutes? Does anybody not prepared to move forward with taking a look at those? All right, so they were emailed last week, late last Tuesday, so we didn't really have a pretty good opportunity to take a look at them. So they start on page 341, November 10th, 2020. So reserve fund was at 49,647. We did meeting minutes on the first page from September 8th, October 6th, and October 27th. Does anybody have anything that they need to edit on that page? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the next page, page 342. There was quite a lot of information that I'd like to probably try to clarify on this particular page. I don't know if anybody else. But in the middle of the page, right in the middle of the page, where we're talking to Chief Hamlin. And basically, we were talking about the rationale for what's referred to as not filling the vacancy. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were talking about not filling shifts. I think that was really when I referred back to the former chief's explanation of using that as his quote, skin in the game. I think it's that unused shifts and not how that says filling the vacancy. Samantha, do you recall the meeting where we were talking about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I propose for that particular sentence where it says, he asked Chief Hamlin his rationale for not filling the vacancy. Chief Hamlin replied that he would rather not fill the vacancy to avoid laying off officers. And I'd just like to see if we can, because my question was related to the cost of the unfilled shift. So I think a better, just a better explanation would be to replace that using not filling the vacancy was to replace that with unfilled shifts. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So that's all. Is that complicated, Samantha?
Hold on one sec.
And then there are three other references to what's referred to as personal days there also later in the paragraph. And those all could be replaced with that term unfilled shifts as well. So
Okay.
so for instance, when Mr. Cadero asked
Well,
on
Dave specifically asked for how many for
personal days,
He specifically asked that.
that was personal days. Okay, yep, you are correct.
So,
But when it gets down to the 363 personal days, that 363 relates to the unfilled shifts, that number. Because there were 271 that represent 129,776 when the chief was talking about how many unfilled shifts that are projected for this year. Does everybody remember that?
Yes.
So I think you could leave the personal days in there where Dave's question was, but I think the last reference to personal days is really a reference to unfilled shifts. Yes, no? That's the only thing I had on that page.
Can I make a comment, Rick?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a couple of things. I mean, these officers are, they have PTO time. They call it paid time off now. If you add up all those time off, they can have the man coverage to cover the shifts that they're requesting.
Well, that's the thing. Well, we
Right.
have this discussion every year.
Right,
And we talk about how much each town department
right,
can sacrifice to balance the budget. And this
Right.
was always, for lack of a better word, a negotiating tool where
Right.
the chief has historically said, this is the skin in the game that I'm putting in. We're not talking about creating an unsafe environment for, the citizens of the town. We're
Right.
talking about how that this department has historically made some adjustments to their budget in order to help balance the budget. That's all.
right. As far as long-term, with these police officers, they're doing a fine job, by the way. But the thing is, you have to consider if they keep rolling these PTO time, the pay time off, the vacation over, what are we going to happen in 10 years now from a patrolman that retires now, or 10 years from now, there's 30 years in. That's what you gotta look at too as well. Do you follow me on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So $129,000 is a lot of money. You know
Right.
what I mean? When we relate it to the budget of the
Right.
police department.
Right,
So I fully understand the chief's mentality and his,
right,
his wanting to fill these shifts and,
right.
fill every shift. But like I said,
Right.
is that always economically feasible for the town? I think this is one of those places. And then not to talk about it too much, we're just talking about meeting minutes now.
No,
but
sure,
I
sure,
think
sure.
eventually we need to have this discussion when we talk about balancing this fiscal budget. That's all.
Right, okay,
So that's why I wanted the meeting minutes to reflect the conversation in
Sure.
case somebody wanted to refer back to the meeting minutes and
great. Thank you,
base their
Rick.
decision on the budget on that. So thank you for your comments, Al.
Thank you, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions on page 342? Comments, suggestions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to page 343. And at the top of the page, we were talking about the armory roof, which actually says army roof, I just noticed. So that we want to change that to armory roof. And then we get into 743, we had Bob Curran join the meeting to discuss the building department budget. And so the first sentence there where Mr. Curran stated that his salary reduced to 68,813 due to retirement, I think it probably could explain a little bit better if you made some reference to the expiration of the 555 retirement incentive, because it's a little confusing. If you just say due to retirement, you know what I mean? His salary was reduced specifically because that the 555 that they were using for his incentive expired, so. You know what I mean, Samantha? Maybe you could just expand on that a little bit and just write, instead of retirement, you could write the expiration of the 555 retirement incentive. Like I said, it would be better reflective of the reason. Okay, and then anything else on that page?
No.
Okay. Moving on to 344. We're talking with Ken, and we were talking about that placeholder for line item 175. Then we got into discussing the Board of Health, and then we introduced John Noon as filling the vacant seat on the Finance Committee. But at the time, we weren't sure about the status. And then at the bottom of the page, Ms. Otina stated that there is no update regarding the school budget as a fiscal year 22 budget has not been presented. Anything on that page?
No.
Okay. Seeing any other, I'll entertain a motion to accept the November 10th meeting minutes as amended.
I move.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Al. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, roll call. John Galvin,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
John Noon,
Abstain.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Al,
Yes, sir.
Chuck,
Yes.
Ralph. And Ralph votes yes
Yes.
with an affirmative head nod, and I will vote yes as well. Thank you very much, Samantha, for getting those together. Okay, so we do have still two outstanding meeting minutes from the 17th and the 24th, which as soon as they become available, we'll get them out. Looking at the agenda, then we will move to subcommittee reports. Dave, anything from the Building Facilities Capital Expenditure Committee?
No changes. We're meeting this Thursday.
Okay, very good. Nothing from the Regional Agreement Amendment Committee. John, anything from the School Building Committee?
We were scheduled to meet this coming Monday, and that just got an email today that meeting is getting postponed until January. No clue why, but that's the email that I got. Basically, that's all it said. So, yeah, that's what I said. But
Things that make you go, huh?
There could be just that there's really nothing to go over, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay, very
So
good.
we won't meet until January sometime.
All right, Whitman Hanson Regional School District, Kathleen, as the liaison, anything you want to report?
The only report or the only information I'd like to be shared with the committee is that I did send Rick a copy of the list of budget documents that I would like to see from the superintendent. It is identical to the list that we submitted last year, so I'm not looking for any new unusual information. And I did also supply a request for the backup information on the non-mandated busing. We have $401,000 allocated this year to bus the children, and I have no idea, I think the committee has no idea how many kids are actually taking the bus. There's 500 kids are learning completely remotely. That's Whitman and Hanson, so I don't know how that breaks out. So I'd like more details to be able to share with the committee in terms of what's the actual cost of busing, the non-mandated busing in this COVID environment, and how do they calculate it? And I believe that that information will be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. As a follow-up, I did take the information that she requested and did draft a new letter for the district. I mailed them today. I sent a copy to the superintendent, a copy to the school committee, and a copy to the Board of Selectmen. So it requests the information that we asked for last year. And it also asks for an electronic copy of the most recent budget, John, for your benefit. I did ask if we could have that electronically so we could get you up to speed and look at the format that the budget comes from the Whitman Hanson Regional School District, so you could have a look at it.
Great, thanks, Rick.
All right, so when the follow-up letter.
Uh-oh. Chuck, get your gavel ready.
Oh, boy.
Dave's here tonight.
Oh, that's right. Dave's in.
Dave's in charge. That's right. Dave was missing last time. Dave, get your gavel ready.
Everybody
Rick,
ready for the motion?
Rick is looks like Rick is gone.
Rick's technical difficulties
Oh.
are rearing their ugly head.
Hello, John. I love that one.
All right, let's see. He's still in the meeting, technically.
Actually, I'll entertain a motion to temporarily adjourn while Rick fixes his internet connection.
Last time it didn't get fixed.
Well,
Let's see what happens. Let's see if he did just drop off. So let's see if he comes back in.
still high winds out there too right now going on.
I'll entertain a motion. Anybody?
Well, we can just hang out. Give him a second. See if he calls back in.
So did everybody clean up their leaves?
This discussion isn't relevant to FinCom. That's why I'm asking for someone make a motion to temporarily suspend the meeting. Anybody?
I'll make that motion.
All right, I'll second it. Sure.
All right, all in favor? John Galvin.
Yes.
Nick Cadore, yes. John Noon.
Yes.
Kathleen Ortina.
Yes.
Mark Colby.
Yes.
Al Cafferty.
Yes, sir.
Ralph Mitchell.
Yes.
All right, so the meeting is temporarily suspended. Yeah, I got more leaves on my lawn, Al.
Sorry.
You want to come send your son down to clean mine up, will you?
Bring your
I
sweet
can't even pay to do my own. And I go, I don't have any trees in my front yard, but I got my neighbors again. Done.
That's a pain when all your neighbors.
Yeah.
All right. Well, doesn't look like he's coming back in.
Give it a minute. Actually, while we're suspended, Ken, can I ask you a question? Have we received reimbursement for the from Plymouth County for the ambulance yet?
So I spoke to Tom O'Brien today.
Also, what?
The submission that I put in before that, back in August, is at the comptroller. And that is going to be paid either this week or next week.
Sweet.
The submission for the ambulance is on Tom's agenda for the commissioners meeting tomorrow. Tom doesn't see any problem with it. Who knows what the commissioners will say, but we're hopeful,
Okay, good, good.
finally.
Does anybody have an agenda in front of them? Have we not?
Yeah, I think we've kind of gone through it.
Yeah.
Um,
We've covered everything.
The only thing that I was going to ask is would it be possible for us to get a copy, the FinCom to get a copy of the letter that went out to the schools? He copied the Board of Selectmen, but he didn't copy us. It would be, I'd love to
Right.
see what
Yeah.
what that letter is.
All right, well, why don't you make that, why don't you make that request when we go back into,
All right. I mean, we might as well go back in and adjourn. Right?
yeah, unless, does anybody disagree?
No.
All right, Rick is out, guys. Dave, you're in charge.
But we got to come back in, right?
It's gonna be,
Right.
Yeah.
I think Dave, you can just do that.
All
Gavel
right,
us
so
back
let's,
in.
I'll entertain a motion to go back into session.
I'll
I'll
make
move
that.
that.
All
All
right,
right, and Chuck will second. Kathleen and Chuck.
all right, John Galvin,
Yes.
Dave Cadaro, yes, John Noon,
Yes.
Kathleen Otina,
Yes.
Rick Colby,
Yes.
Al Cafferty,
Yes, sir.
and, oh my gosh,
Ralph.
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 Yes.
All right, so we're back in the meeting. Does anybody have any questions that they want to bring up before we end this meeting? John Galvin?
Well, since we're back in the meeting now, I'd just like to ask that somebody, I guess we'll ask Rick to forward the FinCom the actual letter that went out so that we get a copy of it so we can see everything that was asked for there. That would be great. So we
Sure.
don't have to go back and dig up what we asked for last year.
Are you going to shoot him that request via email?
I'll take care of it because I'm the one who initiated the list of
Yeah.
specifics.
I figured Kathleen could handle it.
I'll ask,
Good
We're
job,
going to
Kathleen.
make that request to
Good job,
Rick and have it come from Rick?
I will ask Rick to send a copy of the letter to each
Thank you.
member of FinCon. The letter about the detailed budget and also
Yeah.
the letter requesting the backup for the non-mandated busing. They're two separate
Cool.
letters.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to bring anything else up during this meeting? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make,
So
Kathleen makes the motion, John Noon seconds. Roll call, John Galvin,
Yes.
Dave Cadaro, yes, John Noon,
yes.
Kathleen Otina,
yes.
Rick Colby,
Yes.
Al Cafferty,
Yes.
Ralph Mitchell. It's unanimous. All right, thanks, everyone.
All righty.
Thanks.
Good night,
All right, have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Ralph.